Top.
Okay.
Not recording. You are not recording. Okay, you are recording.
Is it recording? Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, recording now.
Sure.
Okay, hello everybody. The aim of that presentation about electroculture is to show you a few techniques from David, from Andrea, and from me. Some of the electroculture pioneers of today. And so we want to show you just a few techniques to make you discover electroculture. And so we will begin with David Wechsler from the US that will explain some of his techniques to us, and then afterwards will Andrea talk about his techniques or some about the Lakowski coil, we will see, and then afterwards I will tell about 2 or 3 techniques. So there are many other techniques, but it's just to show you what it's possible to do and to give you like a kind of introduction. So David, you can begin. Hello, David.
Hello, how's it going?
Good.
Very good. Okay, so I will begin. Thank you both for having me on this show. I am David Wechsler of Electroculture.com. I've been working on this since about 2010, so it's been about 10 years of me experimenting and researching electroculture. And for this presentation, I'd like to share with you a few of the techniques I've been using. I focus primarily in DC or direct current electroculture. And as you can see from my title here, one of the earliest experiments I've done, besides testing on simple plants, was using it for contaminated soil cleanup. And one of the things I found interesting when I first started down this path was that you could, by making the plants grow faster, you could also, there's this field of study called phytoremediation. And I live in an area, St. Louis, Missouri. And in St. Louis here, it's an industrial city that has a good amount of old buildings, old factories that have been torn down. And we have an issue in many places with lead contamination of soils. Another issue that we have here in St. Louis is we have a Superfund site, I think that's what it's called, where there is some toxic waste, toxic radioactive waste in a place over here called Bridgeton, Missouri. And what I've done is I've been a part of a project where we would research the extraction of contaminants in the ground using electroculture. But to start things off, you can see here on this slide where some of my early research. I would develop a number of electronic gadgets for testing out DC electroculture, but also using pulses and frequencies on the improvement of electroculture crops. So for instance, if starting off on the lower right, you could see here that I'm growing some basil plants. I have my control is on the far right, and in comparison to different methods. And so in the pot that's second to the right, you can see what's called the old style earth battery. And for some reason, the earth battery, which has been a hit or miss in the old days, it's not doing so well over here. But in essence, the earth battery is basically 2 plates of different metals. In this case, it's copper and zinc. People have used iron as well in the equation. And by combining these 2 different plates, it creates an electric field between the 2, sort of like a battery, but built into the soil. It's also similar to the way you may have seen lemon clocks or potato clocks powering a small LCD screen. So, and moving further to the left, I have a custom built circuit board that would test out different types of frequencies going into the plants. I think on that board, it was maybe frequencies of 2 or 10 hertz. And maybe one of the devices had a light sensor on there. So whenever the lights would turn off, the current would turn off as well. On the top left, you can see a similar experiment with another prototype on cherry tomato. And you can see just how well it's doing way better than the control one. It just accelerates the growth enormously. And on the top right, you can see one of my commercial systems. That's the Harvest Storm 1 on a cannabis farm, where we're doing cannabis trials in Northern California, and some of them right now in St. Louis, Missouri. So on the bottom left, you can see there that there are, in the world of electroculture, there are many different parameters, and we're kind of in the Wild West right now, where there's many different techniques to try out, and these techniques range between DC and pulse DC. There's AC and DC. You could do alternating current. In this case, when I do pulse DC, I switch between 0 volts and 5 volts or 3 volts sometimes. And what we do is we experiment with different parameters, like how long do we apply the current for, what type of frequencies. There are some frequencies that the cells naturally resonate to. And there are also some more specialized frequencies, like the Schumann resonance frequency. And so I do a lot of experimentation using these frequencies, as do Yannick and Andrea. We also test out day and nighttime simulation and different types of soil. And what we're trying to do is find out under which conditions we get the best results. Next slide. So here, going back to the land remediation project, there's this thing, Phytoremediation. And if you want to learn more about it, there is this excellent guide. It's really absolutely amazing at the link at the bottom of the screen. And if you go there, you could download a guide to phytoremediation. There's a screenshot on the top left that explains the process, where basically you're growing some plants called hyperaccumulators that are known for sucking up lots of contaminants. So for instance, sunflowers are known for sucking up radioactive materials or lead, among other things. And you can see here in this experiment that I did as part of the Sustainable Land Lab competition, that we had this electrified row on the far left, and you can see that the sunflowers there are outlasting all of the other ones, and they're taller as well. In the creation of this, we made a trench on 2 sides of the area that we were going to electrify, and we buried a number of electrified nails that we were using as our positive and negative electrodes. The soil was very hard, very damaged soil. So we had to get creative. We had to dig down into soil and actually nail them in and solder them in on the spot. But by soldering them in, you get the best connection possible. At the far end of the field, we used a waterproof box with a charge controller, a stimulation controller, like the one I built here on the left. And by applying a pulsed frequency field to the crop as shown, you get great results. And so the idea is, after you apply the electronic stimulation, you get high growth. Then you would remove all the plants, destroy them, and go for another round of treatment. And the idea is, it's a very low cost, sustainable way of ground toxicity cleanup. Next slide. Here are some other designs that I've put together. You can see here on the bottom left, I have this is one of my typical electrode modules mounted on a printed circuit board. So we have 2 probes going into the soil, and a red wire comes in and the purple wire comes out, and you could daisy chain multiple modules from plant to plant to plant, and simulate a large field of plants using the same controller. And you can see on the top left that using this type of system, we were able to increase the yield of some tomatoes by 51%. We also did an open field test on some soybean plants. using a demonstration system I put together for someone, using a constant current DC electric field, along with some light sensing on there. So the field would turn off at night, stay on during the day, and we were able to get these results on soybean crop. Next slide. So there's actually much more to this. I'm in the process of developing some courses right now that will explain DC electroculture in depth, among other types of electroculture. And I just like to say that electroculture, I recommend for everyone who's into gardening of any kind, or even if you're into science and education. Electroculture is one of the coolest things out there because it allows you to combine multidisciplinary fields of agriculture and biology and electronics all together. And then you can see from Andrea and Yannick's presentation, there's a artistic side to it as well. When these guys design their antennas, there's you could get all creative and use all sorts of spirals and beautiful art for pulling in electric field energies down into your crop. So I highly recommend this. Come check out my website, electricfertilizer.com. And I also have a book available that I recently translated to French and Italian, also available on my website. And thank you so much. I look forward to answering any questions anyone has, and I'll talk to you soon. Back to you, Yannick.
Yes, thank you very much, David, for your presentation. It's very interesting, and I like that idea very much about to connect the science aspects with art. and with electroculture, it's really very fun to discover the science behind it, and also to discover the more subtle energies and the artistic way we can do it too, with very good results. So it's very, very interesting. So now we go over to Andrea, that will present his way of doing electroculture as an introduction with Lakowski coils and spirals.
All right, thank you very much indeed, Yannick. It's a pleasure. I will not talk about my spiral antenna or the rainbow Irish tower. We will do another time. It's
okay.
Just to show what we can do with colors. And my approach is based on these 7 pillars. So I always try to identify the cosmic energy that are coming through the sun. I'm working with the earth, rhythm, working on the seeds and the plants, the water, the ecosystem, and the human part that is very important. So that's my approach. I'm based in Italy, and I started electroculture thanks to Yannick in 2012. That's a short resume of very short 10 reasons why I use the electroculture. So the number 1 is the production is superior from 30 to 300% based on the cultivar, based on the ecosystem or the techniques that we can put in place. There's a step-by-step treatment reduction. So we can reach the 0 fertilization, the 0 treatment, 0 pest control in a short time. And in this way, we can also regenerate the earth soil life very shortly. And the most important fact for me is the nutrition factor that is always growing more and more, from 30 to 50% superior to my permaculture approach also. And we install only 1 time, and that's for the life. And we started at the beginning with a kind of a game. Let's say it was with a role play or game. Is a small yard, 300 square meters. Then I moved in 3,000, and finally we have today installations that are over 100 hectares that are in place since many years. And is working in a combination of very different approach, like permaculture, biodynamics, organic farm, traditional farm. We can apply this approach in olive tree plantation, vineyard, fruit tree, or horticulture area, cereals, garden center, and really a lot of places. At the end of the story, it's interesting to see that we are applying the solution in many countries, like South America, USA, Europe. Out of European country are using the electroculture, and we have very good results everywhere. We only use natural energy, subtle energies, but what is available in nature with the passive electroculture. That's the way I use it. And at the end, we have a really abundance and fertility in our garden, diversity also. And that's the way we build our energy garden, food forest, and food forest garden or horticulture. We can move on. And that's apply also to the animals, because as you can see from the Yannick experience, also my experience, we can apply this technique for bees. We can apply for chickens, rabbits, and even other animals. That's my ebook. I wrote several years ago a very fast ebook that is available in English as well in my website, electroculture.com ebook. So you can download it. And it's a little bit of my story, like a permaculturist and all the project I've done. It's a short story, but it's free. So I suggest to have a copy from the website. And we can move on. I started with this. The reason why I decided to make my own food, it's the possibility to have the control of the food, the quality of the food, the energy, and all this information, like you can see from the leaf, when you see a Fibonacci or a sacred geometry into a plant, it's very clear that the energy of the food, and that's part of the project I made since the beginning, just to produce my own food. Okay, good. Let's move on. That's the first interesting guy that I was discovering thanks to Yannick, the George Lakonsky approach. It's an interesting story. You can find a lot of good books, also free books. And he was applying this copper circle around plants with cancer. And after several days, the plant was surviving versus all the other plants without the ring of copper. And removing the cancer, the plant was continuing to grow step by step. So I was really surprised by this. And I found also a very ancient book in my country with the same experiment that have been experimented in several agriculture places and faculties, university in Italy with the same results, with the same good results. And so I was trying to save a maple tree in my garden, and I saw a video from Yannick, and I tried with a very simple electric cable like this. You can see it's a very simple electric copper cable. And then I moved my research in multiple approach, multiple, let's say, variation of the same, because we have different potential energy that is delivered from the copper, and the combination of the spiral, like in this case, we can combine spirals, increasing the energy field, or we can combine also multiple colors like the rainbow colors. And we can add also some magnetic parts like this example, and this will increase the power of the ring. We can move on, Yannick. The next, for the ring, is important to keep the part open to the north side, or in some cases, like you can see, it's possible to cross also the ring. Every material has different standard, potential standard millivolt. So it's important to combine always uh, um, copper with aluminum or copper with iron or zinc to have a plus and minus that will increase the power and also the effect. And we have to keep in mind also the colors effect, because every colors different frequency, like you can see in this table, from violet to blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. Every color has a different effect in every plant. And in general, my suggestion is to work on the border line, like the green is not very efficient, but it's better to work with the red or the violet and the blue to see big effects. And that's interesting also to discover in the plants what is fitting best, what is the response based on the color. In general, based on my experience, that is quite wide because I've done a lot of tests. The plants that are loving to stay in shade place, they love the violet, the blue spectrum, like you can imagine, for instance, strawberries or yosta berries or blackberries. They live, they can live even in the shade parts of the bush, so they will prefer this kind of frequency. Plants like a tomato or some flowers that they really love sun, they prefer the red, the orange, and the yellow. But there are always some exception, and it's interesting to discover it day by day. We don't know everything. It's fun to discover, to share, and to discuss in our forum or in our uh, groups the results day by day. Okay, let's move on. The next one. We have not invented anything new. The story was teaching us that even in the past, this is a third cycle historic discovery, and the Celtic Torque was available really a lot of time ago, and the people were fitting the Celtic Torque like I do now with the Yannick style copper, or even they were using to energize. And it's very simple, it's very easy. I suggest to start with this approach. Was my first test with my first experience, and even in the Egyptian we found some rings like that. So it's very old technology. We can move on, and this some example how you can apply at the base of the plants. Very easy, north south, or you can apply in the place that is suspended, or you can apply where you put your seeds, or you can apply to yourself. Sometimes if you have an headache, you can try a simple caustic oil like that in your neck. Let's move on so we can see some grapes. This is a grapes application. There were plants not making fruits for 7 years, and they were very old plants. So we used the blue ring that is crossed, like you see in the pictures. And after this application, very simple application, the production started again. And finally, we had a very good grow, very good harvest. And that was used like a test with a benchmark and other plants without the rings were not producing exactly like this. So we have the opportunity also to go back into life, go back into production with all the plants. That is one of the application we can use in electroculture, not only input reduction, better production, but also to go to give again the life to all plants. And this is very, very important. Okay, let's move on. We created with Yannick another ebook explaining how to use the basic tools that you can see here. This is a very old, 2 years ago, starter kit that is based on pyramids, magnetic antenna, spirals, Lakowski coil, and also the antenna that is being based on the Christoph law in the Yannick version or my version. And that is the way we are teaching to people to start and to put in place in the garden. You find these products in my website, also Yannick website. We are open to share the opportunity, and this is the way we can share our knowledge, and we can make easy to everybody to start in the house or in the garden. Yeah, that's all for me today. I have a lot of story about the rainbow, about chromotherapy, but not today.
So thank you very much, Andrea. It was very interesting. And so like you see, the Lakowski coil is really one of the first techniques to begin with, that I advise to begin with, because the results are amazing and it's very simple to do. You can do it inside, on your balcony, in your garden, or in agriculture, on trees, on fruit trees, and you will see really amazing results. So thank you very much to Andrea. And we will continue to share and show you different techniques. Andrea has a lot of techniques to show and explain. In next videos, I invite you to discover his site also, like also David's website, and our videos on YouTube and other channels on internet. So now I will begin my little presentation. This is well. So the revival of electroculture from 1928 to 2021. Electroculture is older than 1928. We find already in 1700 and even before history about electroculture. And now it was lost or almost complete forgotten after World War II. And the last years we have David, we have Andrea, me. I began around 1998 I began to do research about the influence of music on plant growth. And this brought me to discover the memory of water and the electromagnetic influences on water and how to energize the water for irrigation purposes in agriculture. And bit by bit, by the years, I discovered electroculture and did my first experiments in 2001 or 2003, I think. And then I did my first big experiment in different hectares to a farmer in 2008, I think. And since then, I develop every year new techniques about electroculture. In the beginning, I was almost alone, and then there was David in the US that I discovered, and Andrea in Italy a few years ago. And And now we are like a group of thousands of people doing electroculture in France, Italy, US, and in reality all over the world. But it began really mostly in France. In the past too, 1 century ago, it was also mostly in France. Also a lot in Italy. It's very interesting to discover that it's like a revival. It's like a remembering. And so I will show you different techniques I advise you today. So there is the magnetic antenna you see on top, above. I show you a little bit better. So you see the magnetic antenna. It's basically a magnets, ferrite magnets that you orient north-south in the good orientation with the Earth magnetic field and a galvanized steel wire. And then that together creates like an antenna effect. It creates a resonance with the Earth magnetic field, and all the plants will grow better on the wire. And that's very easy to install. You will see you see that on sunflowers, on cabbages, on almost all the plants react very positively to it. I will show you also about pyramids, how to use copper pyramids, and also about cones. It's a new technique from last year, so that I will talk a little bit this today. So next slide. So here you see how to use the magnetic antenna with the galvanized steel wire. You see an installation I did with my my little daughter. She was between 1 and 2 years old, and she already began to help me. And so you can dig a little trench in the earth in your greenhouse or outside and put a galvanized steel wire connected with the magnetic antenna. And here you see Brussels sprouts, a kind of cabbage, a kind of cabbage species, Brussels sprouts. You see at the right side how much bigger they were in comparison with the control. That's an example. In most cases, you have like 30% more growth and yield, and sometimes it can be even a lot more. Sometimes it's double. It's difficult to know in advance how much you will increase the yield, but in most cases, you will increase it. Another example that was very interesting, it was last year to a farmer on a 3-4 hectare field in the north of Germany. Electroculture is also rapidly growing in Germany. And you see a parsley on the left. You see the parsley of the field with the magnetic antenna, and on the right, the parsley without. You see the difference in growth. The parsley grew a lot better. He saw also that farmers saw also that the parsley make a lot quicker new roots and was a lot more resistant to sickness, to some disease. And what is also very interesting is that that table on the below on the bottom left is that with magnetic antenna there was like around 30% more essential oil content in the parsley. So the active molecules was 30% more concentrated in the field, in the parsley, with the magnetic antenna. So at the same time, you have bigger plants, but also more quality, they have more nutritious value too. It's not like with chemicals or with chemical fertilizers, for example, where you can have bigger plants, but the nutritious value is less. Here with electroculture, you have bigger plants, also more healthy, but also more nutritious, and also and at energetic level, it has also a lot more vital energy. Andrea did some experiments about that that show that the plants with electroculture had a lot more vital energy. And so that, for example, on the potatoes, for example, too, and eggplant you see on the bottom, that was in my garden a few years ago. You see on the left with the magnetic antenna, and on the right without. You see it's really a huge difference. Another example, another technique now, it's about the cones and the towers and the little towers. So the cones is developed. First, I made those cones to use it as a hat on the towers, on the paramagnetic round towers. So this is inspired from the towers we find in Ireland, all around Ireland. And if you know, maybe Phil Callahan is a researcher from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. He discovered that all plants grow better around those paramagnetic round towers. And so we begin to make little round towers. It works like an antenna effect with the Earth magnetic field too, and with low frequency radio waves of the Earth, it's more precisely, it's the natural low frequency radio waves, like the Schumann wave, the Schumann frequency, and all plants grow better. And for example, you see my raspberry plant at the left, close to the tower, was like 2 meters 80 high, 2 meters 80 centimeters high. So it's really very big. It was really very big. I never saw a raspberry plant so high, and it was close to that tower in my garden. We see that, like Andrea told too, those techniques, we see already that when we look at archaeology and in history, we see already even with the Egyptians that they knew about that, because we see representations of that kind of towers. Probably they knew how to use that. They knew maybe a lot better than we know. We know today how to use it. It's like we rediscover all those techniques, and it works. What is interesting is that we see results. You just do it and you see results. It's as easy as that. Maybe you will not see to every technique results. Sometimes it doesn't work. We don't know why always, but in most cases you will see results. And so I began to make little towers and also cones that I will talk about also. For example, here that was on a raspberry bush, on red currants in my garden. You see, they were really very big. You see at the right with electroculture. It was in the action radius of the tower, and in comparison with red currants that were a lot further in my garden. You see a wall difference. I never saw last year so big red currants in my life, but every year I put more and more techniques of electroculture, or I improve them, and so every year I have really more and more results. You have also the mint plant. This is a mint on the right, you see. At the moment of the picture, it was already 1 meter 10. And normally it's a mint plant that is in the books, it's described as having maximum 80 centimeters high. And there it was already 1 meter 10. And at the end of the season, it's always between 1.50 m and 1.80 m. That was the biggest I had, 1.80 m high, like it was as high as me. It was mint. I never saw that so big. I'm the first to be really amazed about all that. My first experiments was, it's not that I believed or not in it, I just wanted to try, and I tried it and I saw results. And every time I'm again like a child that is completely amazed about the results. Another example that is that new techniques with the cones, inspired from the towers too. And the idea of the cones is to make cones and to dig it in the earth all around the field or in the garden. And the first experiments gave also very interesting results. We see that already in the book, The Secrets of the Soil, where they speak about a Mayan technique, old technique in history, where they digged some little pyramids around the field to increase the energy of the field, and you have that idea with those cones that is also inspired. There is also a connection with the pyramids because the angle on top is 51 degrees. It's like the 51 degrees you find back in the Cheops pyramid and also in the Nubian pyramids, in the golden ratio pyramids. You find back at that 51 degrees. Cones and pyramids is kind of same technology and same knowledge. An example, here you see sunflowers that I have seeded in the area with the cones. You see on the left, they grew a lot. They sprouted a lot, They sprouted a lot more rapidly. You see the first little leaves in comparison with on the right, the first leaves are still not there or very little. You see already a few days in advance. Another example on beans, you see the leaves of beans that were beans that were already growing when I put the cones, and a few weeks later the leaves were a lot bigger, the new leaves in the area with the cones in comparison in the area without, that you see on the right. That's for example. So now we will begin to do a field test in hectares fields and more bigger fields. But the first results are really very amazing. So it's just to show you that every year we discover new techniques too that are very interesting. I think we all agree to say that electroculture techniques have the potential to really change completely in a better way all the way of doing agriculture and improve the yields and the quality and the vitality and solve the major problems in agriculture today. About sicknesses, about a problem of yield or fertilization. Another example of techniques, it's the pyramid. Here you see in the middle, it's a friend Richard with his giant sunflower head. He had 2 years in a row the world, not the world record, the French record of the biggest sunflower head. And he used only organic way of farming, organic way of doing his garden, and permaculture and electroculture with electroculture. So the other people at the competition, they were completely amazed because he didn't use any chemical fertilizer, or he had no any secret. He just used electroculture and permaculture techniques to have those results. And one of his major techniques that he used is to energize the seeds in the pyramid, and also to use the towers, the towers I showed you, and the cones to And at the right, you see me close to my giant sunflowers too. Also very big one, also very close to the French record, but it was not me, it was Richard. But it was very nice. It's like a nice competition in our electroculture family or community. It's to work with sunflowers. It's very nice plant, and even David use it with his DC current. It's a very interesting plant to experiment with, because when the energies are good or the effects are good, you see directly the difference in the growth and you see it very easily. It's bigger, it's nicer, more healthy. And at the left, you see a guy, a researcher that is in Russia. I'm in contact with Russian researchers too, that use the pyramid. And you see in the field, you see at his left, the sunflower heads ready for yielding, very little, and at the right a lot bigger, close to his head. And this is just the difference about how the difference they had by energizing their seeds in a pyramid, in a copper pyramid. It's interesting to know, because if you compare the effects of different kind of materials, it can have also a lot different effects. And for plants, the best is copper. That was also, you see that also in the conclusions in the research of a thesis that was done in Texas, in the US, about pyramids and the effects on plant growth. You have also the book of Les Brown that I advised, that was a researcher that was living close to Toronto in the 70s, and he wrote a book about the effects on plants of pyramids in 1978. And you find that book in English on my site or on the internet. You can download it and discover it. It's very, very interesting. So next, you see other French records, not world records, but French records, close to world records. You see again Richard with another giant sunflower that was close to 60 centimeter diameter. You see in the middle, Mehdi Dao. He is a record man of a lot of vegetables. He had huge vegetables. And last year, he began also doing electroculture with the pyramid. And he had even increased his own records. So he is very happy. And I believe, it would be nice, but I think that in a close future, we will have a lot of world records and French records with electroculture techniques, because the results are so amazing. And other techniques or other testimonials, you see a big pyramid of 4 meter high, 3 to 4 meter high in copper, to a farmer, where he puts his seeds, his wheat seeds, in the pyramid to energize them. And then at the right, you see a little test he have done about with the wheat seeds. A germination test with the wheat seeds from the control at the left, and at the right, the wheat seeds that were in the pyramid. So you see a huge difference. So imagine what would be the results if you seed all your farmland with seeds that were energized in the pyramid. That can make a huge difference. Another example is that cornfield where you see me standing in. That was at an organic farm, where they were complaining that they had always little corn plants and they didn't know how to do, and they were complaining that their soil was not good, and so on. And then I say, oh, let's try the pyramid. And they tried the pyramid, and they had huge results. They had even better results than in comparison with the nearby conventional farming methods and fields. The corn of the others around, of the neighbors and so on, were a lot more little and less healthy than their corn. And they were really amazed. They never saw so much result. They had like 3 to 4 corn on corn. I don't know how to say that, the stalks, or on one plant. It was really amazing. So you see, you can have results on a lot of kind of plants, and I just invite you to begin to do something in your garden, to test some electroculture, and you will see amazing results. So as a conclusion, that was a picture when I went to visit Andrea. I was at the airport. There were nice cars, so we make a nice picture, like to show electroculture is really for champions. If you don't want to be a champion, don't do electroculture. If you want really good results and have high vitality, it's not only about the plants are bigger or so on. No, it's really the nutritious value, the quality, and the results are even a lot better. It's really a pleasure to discover that and to share those techniques. Because it's easy, there's no secrets, everybody can do it, everybody can use it, and everybody can yield the results. So it's for the good of mankind and our Earth, planet Earth, I would say. So that's my internet site, my French one, electroculturevandoorne.com. But you have also an English site. If you put my name and electroculture on internet, you will find it easily. Van Doorne is my name, and electroculture. You have electroculture and magnetoculture.com. You have that. You have magnetoculture.com too. I have different sites, but my major is the French one. That's the most up to date. You can also find us on Facebook, on different communities on internet and social network. Also on YouTube, you can find Andrea, me. You can find videos also about David. So if Andrea, if you also want to say something to conclude, and David, let's go.
Yeah, it was a nice round table, let's say. We decided to have only half an hour, but it was 1 hour at the end of the day. And we cut our presentation because we have a lot of story to tell to the people, a lot of experience. There are hundreds of installation in large scale, with very good results year after year. So it's another new video, this one. We did a video before just to introduce ourselves, and I hope we can continue, and I hope everybody will be curious, everybody can start easily, and we have a good reference in Europe, like in USA. So my suggestion is to start to have a look, to see the video, see our websites, and make some experiments.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrea and Yannick. This was a great opportunity, and there is, again, so much to learn about electroculture. It is not only great for the plants, but it's also great for us to learn new things. And as you get into it, you can also learn that electroculture is actually good for us as well. There's the whole grounding movement where people could walk with bare feet on damp ground. and bring forth the electrical currents into your own body. We're all connected to the plants, the earth, the atmosphere, and electroculture is it's life. It's life for all of us. Dig in. There's tons to learn, and thank you for watching.
So thank you very much, Andrea, David, and thank you to all the listeners. And don't hesitate to contact us if you have questions. And so, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Bye.
Ciao a tutti. Grazie. Thank you. Stop recording.
I don't know how to stop.
You close everything. Ciao, Yannick. Ciao.
Yes, I will do that.
Pleasure.
I'll see you guys later.
I close everything. It's not easy.
Oh, it's still going.